welcome to the Monday, October 17th, 2022 combined public well, there are no public hearings tonight, but public hearing and work session for the Village of Southampton Planning Board. Can I get a motion to open the meeting?
I'll move to open the meeting.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Let's begin. As I just mentioned, no public hearings on the agenda, so we'll move right into the work session part of our agenda. And the first thing up is 554 Hill Street LP. And I understand that we have a growing file.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. So
I might be able to, I know there's a memo that Kathy did on October 7th,
Okay.
but I think some of the questions have been answered, so with your permission, in the attempt to truncate and make things move along quickly, I'd just like to go through this very quickly.
You okay with that?
yeah, I'm fine with that, and I just wanted to.
Obviously subject to what you have to say, Kathy.
Well, I was pretty much going to do what you're going to do,
Okay.
I think, but that's fine. And you can address the submission from today as well, which I haven't looked at.
Perfect.
But John Ellsworth from Nelson Pope and Voorhees and Scott Reisinger, who's the engineer at Nelson and Pope, who has reviewed the drainage plans, they're also on Zoom to answer questions. So
Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Okay.
So, John Bennett, the applicant, Bailey Larkin is here, and Vince Godiella from Rayner Group. Some of the stuff is, you're gonna see is, in effect, ships passing the night, memos crossing, so I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. What I'm gonna use as the guidepost is Kathy's October 7, 2022 memo. I think we've addressed this because now we have a letter from PSE&G that states what Nelson Pope wanted. Obviously, if you disagree with that, then you let me know, but the letter does assure that necessary services are available to the subdivision. So we did submit that letter. So and for lack of better description, there's an amended letter from PSE&G. With respect to Kathy's comment 2, we have an amended availability letter from Suffolk County Water Authority that reflects the fact that water service will be provided via the easements. I will tell you that this may have been, the comment may have come from a mistake in terms of what the Suffolk County Water Authority's policy is. I've never seen Suffolk County Water Authority disallow an easement that was in effect tantamount to a flag lot easement. What they don't allow is if there's a road here and this lot is serviced for public water and there's no public access, they won't let you jump across to a lot that doesn't have a separate road access. But that's not what we're talking about. So there is an amended, but suffice to say there is an amended letter.
And we've reviewed that, and it does specifically say that the water will be provided by easement to the lots in the rear.
Okay.
Okay. Comment 3, which is the dealing with putting these IA systems on each lot. I'll let Vince talk about that, but I will tell you that, and I don't mean this is a challenge, but I don't know how else to say it. I've probably been involved in the creation of about 500 lots on the east end over the last 40 years of my career. I've never seen a subdivision that has anything other than a typical wastewater system, usually in the upper right-hand corner. And what it does is it shows, depending upon whether there's a well or public water, it shows the way the wastewater system is to be constructed. The reason it says typical wastewater system is because you have to go back to the Suffolk County Department of Health Services on an individual lot basis each time you get one approval to construct a single-family residence on the lot, and that is their separate jurisdiction. So that's because you're showing them a house, how big it is, and an appropriately sized wastewater system for that lot. The approval that's been given by the Suffolk County Health Department Services for this for this subdivision is all that's required. Anything else, asking for anything else having to do with wastewater systems would be outside the jurisdiction of the board, but there's no need to worry about that, because even if there was a concern about what the septic system is gonna look like, that's the jurisdiction of the Suffolk County Department of Health Services Bureau of Wastewater Management, and every single subdivision that is filed in the county of Suffolk since 1948, which I think is the first iteration of Public Health Law 1116, requiring approval, at that point it was the New York State Department of Health, has nothing other than the typical wastewater system on the map. But I'll let Vince talk about that as well. With respect to comment number 4, which is a request to alter the front yards on lot number 3, as we stated in our prior letter, this is contrary to the terms of the Zoning Board of Appeals approval, which was not only Zoning Board of Appeals approval, but was litigated and upheld by the Supreme Court of Suffolk County. The only language in there that would give any succor to the board is they said something about minor adjustments. Now, unless I'm misunderstanding something, and I had a couple people look at this, the suggestion was to reorient the front yard on lot number 3. So what we did is we drew a sketch of that. And it just, I don't know.
John, you want to just put it on the table?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to, I have a copy
Thank you.
of everything. And I will give,
Thanks.
Bailey is another lawyer in the office, and of course everybody else works with this. I'm just gonna characterize this in a certain way. She would probably make a better employee of the Department of State than me, because she's more diplomatic than I am. But,
John, do you have a digital file?
sure, you did that, I'm sorry, you asked me to do that before, sorry. Which way, towards you, does it matter? This,
No,
one-
a digital file. Do you have a file of it?
not right now, no. Cause we just put it together, cause we got the memo just the other day.
I could bring it digital for you if I know what you have in hand.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
I think, I mean, I think we
This is
can.
just bad, just let me finish, Kat. This would just be bad planning.
I think that the idea is that the zoning board left it open for the planning board to comment on this at this point. And the front yard, as oriented, as shown on the subdivision plan, would be to the south, where the driveway comes in. And I would agree that that is the best place for it. So, but we wanted to make sure that the planning board knew that there is that flexibility to make minor tweaks. This exhibit pretty much shows that, I would agree, that it would be difficult to have the front yard oriented to the west.
Yeah, I just took issue with,
Or to the north. I mean, that's the other option, is to have to the north, if you're gonna have the driveway coming in off of Captain's Neck Lane, then the front yard should be at the south end of the property. So if the planning board is comfortable with that, then this comment goes away.
This is just a piece of, so I think,
but it's lot number 3. It's
Right.
meant to describe for you what would happen if you oriented the front yard and the rear yard as being on the easterly and westerly side of the property, as opposed to the northerly and southerly side of the property. You end up with a 30-foot sliver.
right, of an envelope that you could build on.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I would just say that minor adjustments are one thing, but this is not a minor adjustment. I'm just gonna come right out and say it'd be really bad planning to have a 30-foot wide building envelope on there. It would make the lot,
Make for an interesting home.
it would be like a railroad flat. Well, 30-foot wide, I think I lived in a brownstone in Brooklyn, like that one time for a while. But, unless, forgive me, Kathy, if I misunderstood the comment.
No.
But And I mean that sincerely. I may have misunderstood it, but I think this is what happened. So I would just ask you to be happy with that.
I'm not sure I understand what your comment, the import of the comment. What is
Yeah.
the typical lot layout for where a front yard would be and the setbacks?
And I'm gonna,
And I
is
disagree.
John Ellsworth available? Is he in there? Is he?
Bringing him in right now.
Okay. So we're gonna put him on the spot, though.
Yeah, I don't really understand the issue as to what the typical lot layout would be and what we would be.
It's the way that the front yard is defined, and that the way that, so the front yard oriented south is not the way a front yard would be defined under village code. So,
But that's the variance.
and that is the variance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the comment was just that the planning board could vary this, but, and have the front yard face a different way. I guess it could face north, but John, can you further comment?
Right, and I'm just gonna rehash what's already been said. It was more of a procedural thing that the zoning board decision clearly provided a condition that the planning board could modify the approval.
Minor.
And that's not what was said in previous meetings. It was asserted that the planning board had no authority at all to modify the zoning board decision. But in this particular case, I think everybody agrees that the way it's shown on the plan appears to make the most sense from a planning perspective.
So we're going to leave it that way.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, thanks. I'm
Lisa,
sorry.
you good with that?
Um,
That's fine.
Okay.
Alan, can you see it?
No, but I think I know what you're talking about, and
Okay.
facing south. And it's, to me, as you know, Chairman, it's part of a larger issue that was explicit many times in the proceedings of the planning board before it gave a negative declaration. It was spoken about in the giving of the declaration by people saying it was part of larger matters that would need to be addressed after the ZBA had done their work with the request of all of the variations and requests that were going before it in the petition or the application of several years ago.
Okay.
So I view it as part of probably a larger discussion that I'm sure council will get to and in some fashion as to the state of the approval for the subdivision.
Okay,
Not sure I understand that, Alan, to be honest with you, but we'll see what develops.
all right.
I agree.
Okay. Comments 5 and 6 were addressed through the submission of a modified plan prepared by Areas Design. Nelson Pope had requested some larger plans, that we did exactly what was requested, and also there's a note saying that those species are actually rather drought, what's the word I'm looking for?
Tolerant.
Tolerant, thank you. Comment 7, Nelson Pope is still reviewing the submission made on October 4th, I understand that. Comment 8 indicates that Nelson Pope is still reviewing the SWIP. In terms of, things get filed and sometimes a lot of stuff gets filed, but I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that the SWIP was filed with the Village Building Department in 2019. And then we filed complete copies with the final subdivision application on December 17th, 2021. So again, a lot of stuff gets filed, but maybe it just didn't make its way into the right file. But we did file, or actually, we did file it. But the last thing is, before I asked Vinnie to come up and talk about those separate.
Is that an issue?
So let me just comment on that. So February 2019, there is a letter from the applicant to the building department with a filing fee, and there's a separate letter to Carrie O'Farrell in my office with mentioning the attachment, and neither office has copies of it. I don't know what happened, But regardless, we are in the process of reviewing the SWIP from 2019. The
Okay.
check, as far as I know, was never cashed. I mean, so
Okay. Well, whatever you need for that, Kathy,
So-
you need additional copies, whatever you need.
we do not need an additional copy.
Okay.
As your engineer will undoubtedly tell you, the general permit, though, has changed since the 2015 Speedies permit was adopted. So the new New York State general permit is 2020. So there's other requirements. It just needs to be updated to be consistent with the, there are comments, but it's not extensive. So we
Okay.
will be getting those out this week. So you'll have those.
And then before I ask Vince to come up and talk about, there was some comment asking for a letter from the health department that that the subdivision complied with the Suffolk County Department of Health Services subdivision criteria. I didn't see that in your prior memo. I'm assuming that's gone away?
I believe so.
Okay. All right.
Jeffrey?
We'll be following up, with- I saw your
Did
letter.
you read? Oh, yeah, okay.
I did, I had the chance to review it, I
Okay.
appreciate it. What we'll do, because that's, in the code, I'll follow up with village council, but in speaking with Kathy, and having looked at the plan and the stamp, I think we'll be able to move past that, so.
Okay,
I'll get that
just
done.
for the purposes of explanation for the board, it's interesting to know, your minor subdivision regulations and your major subdivision regulations are different in one respect in terms of Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And it takes a little bit of knowledge. I'm not trying to sound like self-referential or, maybe it's I've been doing this too long, but what happens is the major subdivision requirements are that you have to file the health department approval with the major. The minor says if you request it, the board members request it, we have to give you a letter from the health department saying it meets all the standards. If you go back to the old subdivision regulations and you look at section 116 of the public health law and you look at the chronology of how subdivision required approvals came about, you used to be able to get a minor approved without health department approval. And I'm really dating myself, but I used to
Right.
get them approved. So understandably, the code would say if the village board, planning board, wanted that extra comfort from the health department, they could require it. But it says a letter, we can require a letter from this health department saying that I've met all the subdivision standards. That's what the approval says. It's
Okay.
just that in the old days, you didn't need the actual map, because you could approve minors without health department approval. So anyway, in any event, so, Vinnie, you want to talk about the?
So we, just for the board, we do have a stamped plan by the health
Oh, sorry.
department that expired, the stamp, just because of the way the health department regulations read, is that it needs to be filed with the county within a year or it expires. But it is indicative that they have approved it, and they actually approved a reissued, they reviewed it again for final in February of 2021. And so, more than a year has passed, but it's evident that the county has approved this.
I have,
So-
just so you know, and it just depends, sometimes there's delays, there's just the typical delay in the next agency or something like that, there's litigation. I actually have a map that has in my office has 5 reapprovals by the health department on it. You just
Yeah.
submit it, and you pay a fee, and they reapprove it. So we're in the process of doing that, and that'll obviously be submitted as soon as we have it. Vinnie, can you want to talk about this separate?
And Vinnie, if you could, you have the map that shows the lot, the typical lot, what the name of that map is handy?
Well, yeah, the final plat I have,
Okay. Just for reference.
which I did not prepare. The final plat was prepared by Dave Saskis.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Do you want me to put that up anywhere, or?
So I don't know, do you do that anymore? They're not doing that anymore.
Doing what?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Vincent Gaudiello. I'm a professional engineer and a principal with the Rayner Group. Just to kind of give you some background on this project, I was brought in towards the end of the sketch plan process, where my firm was retained to prepare the driveway plans along with the stormwater pollution prevention plan, and as well as assist with signing the map with respect to the health department. With respect to the SWIP, I'll just go on the record and say that the drainage design that is currently being reviewed is different than what the drainage design that is in the SWIP. There's more capacity in the new system, so one of the comments I would expect is that you're providing more drainage, and that is the result of recent comments from your engineer wanting more capacity, et cetera. My focus here right now is I have a few comments and then some questions. As I had mentioned, I was not involved with the zoning board decision, nor was I involved with the sketch plan process. However, at the time of those reviews in front of the village, that was back in 2017, I think it was October of 2017, and the subsequent year, 2018, when it came to the sketch plan approval. And I bring that up because at that time, Suffolk County Department of Health Services did not require innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems. They were contemplating it, they were talking about it, the East End towns were putting pressure on the health department to implement them. Some East End towns and other municipalities were very successful in doing so, to the extent that when October of 2000 came in, the county legislators said, yeah, we're gonna amend this. And anyone who files an application for a new single-family residence in Suffolk County as of July 1st, 2001, is required to put in an IA. No ifs, ands, or buts.
What's the date? Sorry, Vinnie?
July 1st of 2021.
2021.
So I could see why perhaps these decisions by the zoning board and the planning board at the time wanted some teeth that would require the development of these 3 lots to implement IAs. So with that all said, I think that subject and what the wishes of those boards were at the time is mute, because we're required to do one. Now, those are my comments relative to this requirement that your village planner is saying, well, we need a plan or we need to show this somewhere. We have added a note to the common driveway plans that more or less state that. We're required to put IAs, and we make reference to those 2 decisions. We make reference to the county code that is existing today. What's shown on the final plat is a standard system that shows and calls out an IA.
Is there an issue with fitting the IA
Well,
systems?
there's, in my opinion, absolutely not. And let me tell you why. The minimum lot size is a ½ acre on one of these lots. I think we have one lot slightly larger than a ½ acre. The other 2 are north of an acre. Our depth to groundwater at the lowest point, we recently did an updated test hole. We measured groundwater at elevation 5.6. These lots, the lowest elevation is like 24. So it's not like we're dealing with a shallow groundwater situation where we're gonna need, to go with shallow drainage, shallow leaching structures, that spread out over the property. One thing also with respect to the health department approval, part of going to the health department and having them approve your map, their primary focus is to make sure, hey, I'm gonna be able to fit a sanitary system on here or a compliance system and provide suitable water supply. They've done their review along those lines. With respect to what's being asked to show systems on the final plat, that presents a problem because the county's not, when we go to file this map, is not gonna permit us to show systems on a final plat. All they wanna see is where the lot lines are, notes on the plans that govern the lots, and that's it. So, I mean, if this board is adamant about that requirement, I would say, all right, well, tell us what we should be doing. Because if you're telling me to show IA systems on each one of those lots, we could do that, but when it comes to filing it, we're taking it right off, and that's ultimately the map that yourself will sign, that will be recorded in the clerk's office.
Yeah, I'm adamant about having it shown.
But it doesn't make
For
any
the
sense.
reason, it makes sense to me because
Well,
I
it doesn't
filed
Hold
my own applications in, you know, and had to show
Okay, so what do you,
all of the
my
drainage
question is that,
pools. I just wanna finish. The retaining walls, it takes up a huge amount of space. It blocks people's views and neighbors' views. It requires retaining walls. It requires all kinds of, you know, pools and structures, and it affects the lot layout
okay, stop.
with
1 second.
where the driveways are, what you're talking about with the front yards. And as you say, you're required to do it. Therefore, how is the planning board, how are neighbors and people in the community supposed to know what this lot's gonna look like when we come to the public hearing, unless you, like, draw where you're going to put
You have a
these
code,
cesspools? I know, but they're much more, they have much more impact on the environment and the community and the neighbors than a hole in the ground does. And that's why in the modern era, when you're having to do an IA system, you have to draw the number of pools, you have to hire an engineer, show where you propose putting it on the lot, and therefore where neighbor A, B, and C is going to be seeing a retaining wall instead of a tree or whatever it is. So
due to your depth to groundwater on these lots, there will be no need to build raised systems. That's what, and as I said, the background of why I believe those comments were in there was because the teeth of requiring an IA did not exist in 2017 and 2018. Now, you know,
Just let me interject, please. The only time you have to put retaining walls on a system, on a septic system, is when the depth to groundwater is so shallow that you have to bring in fill so that the bottom of the leaching pools is separated from the groundwater by 3 feet. You keep on changing. The depth of groundwater on site.
So that's considered a mound system.
Yes, exactly, exactly. The depth of groundwater on this site is so significant that the entire septic system will be below grade, number one. Number two, Vinnie hit on something that I'm aware as a lawyer. You cannot, yeah, I'm sorry, you cannot file a subdivision in the county clerk's office. When you go to the record room to file them, they require a stamp, the signature of the planning board, chairman, and they also require Suffolk County Health Department approval. The Suffolk County Health Department has to stamp that, the final, in effect. So when you look at if you search in the county record and you look for a filed subdivision map, what you'll see is the signature of the planning board chairman, and you'll also see a stamp from the health department with the signature of one of the responsible officials in the health department. Under the real property law, the county cannot file it without those two. The Suffolk County Health Department is not going to sign off on a map that has individual systems shown on lots, because what they're going to say is it's not in the code, it's not in the filing limitations, and they're going to say, you're trying to sandbag us by saying we don't have to come in and show you the individual systems. You're trying to take away some of our jurisdiction. They have separate and totally separate jurisdiction when you go in on a filed subdivision map, as you know, to put in a single-family residence septic system. They want further review. And they're not going to file, they're not going to stamp that map that shows the separate systems.
So take it off before you file it, but show people where you intend to put it on the lot. I mean, you're representing that it's going to have no visibility on the lot, that
Well,
it
the
has
typical
no
system doesn't
impact?
show any mounting.
But what about isn't there an H-frame situation with a lot of these systems where there's the electrical hookup and the control box?
It has nothing to do
well,
with
Yes, it does.
there are components of an IA system, such as blowers and control panels, et cetera, that in essence need to be, the county code says that they need to be visible from the actual access port into the tank.
Yep.
So if I'm standing there, I need to be able to look at that. I would say 9 times out of 10, what we typically do is we put them onto the house somewhere in a landscaped area, fully screened. You know, that's.
What if you wind up with a situation where the only place for this IA system is in the middle of a front lawn? Because I've actually seen that. And then everybody.
That's the most
deciding
suitable
where we're
place
gonna
to
put
do
this
that.
H-frame that has the little LED light, green light on it that's glowing all night long. So I could see how an initial, like, knowing where that is going to be could help us make decisions.
I know, but what you're asking to do in a subdivision application is basically is
Design
taking a site plan, which is really not what this application's about.
Understood.
In all fairness to this board, your consultants, if you told me you had 2 feet to groundwater, and basically these are quarter-acre lots, and you guys can build 5,000 square foot houses, I could understand why this board may be concerned. But I believe that with what has happened over the course of the last 5 years, the size of these lots, and listen, if you want me to give me a plan, if you want me, I could take a plan, I could show you where a 8-bedroom system goes, but again, where do we stop? Do we draw a footprint of where the house is? A fictitious house, a fictitious driveway? I mean, that's not gonna answer, Ms. Bernstein's question, absolutely not,
Where
because
the driveways go, where they
Well,
terminate.
we don't know where they're gonna go because
Where
they-
the front yard you're proposing,
Well,
all of,
that's-
I don't
again,
see
I-
how, it's like a basic, how
I
the water
believe the
gets
question
into a
posed
lot.
by these boards was they wanted reassurance that we were putting IA systems in here. Now, I can't speak factually because I was not at those hearings, but based on the time frame that has elapsed and the push that the 5 eastern towns has made to implement IAs, we're there. The county created those standards. And so if the board says, listen, we need a plan, I would ask this board to give me direction of what is it exactly that you want? Do you want a plan that demonstrates, yes, we can fit an 8-bedroom system on this lot in a conforming location pursuant to the health department? Or do you, and with that said, what do we use as a footprint for the house? Do we use the biggest FAR that the code permits for that lot? I need direction because it's
At this
just,
point, I do too, so that's why I'm looking at Kathy.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if Scott can give this, this kind of input, because we actually have a whole sanitary department at Nelson and Pope. Let me turn my.
I'll jump in.
Okay, thank you, Scott. This is Scott Reisinger from Nelson Pope, and if you could stop sharing the map that's up there?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So, in reviewing the plans, I tend to agree with Vincent's portrayal. The IA system would be able to be conventionally placed below ground. We typically do screen them, as he said, when I do designs of them. So on these particular lots, I don't see much of a hindrance, as mentioned before. No walls, no mounded system, nothing of that sort of nature is warranted from the engineering that I see.
And what's the depth of water, the minimum?
3 foot, 3 foot separation.
No, I
Bottom
mean on the lots.
On the lot.
Yeah.
Question, as I
Yeah.
heard it,
I don't know, do you know, Benny, offhand? what-
Scott, I don't know if you had a chance to look. We went out and we did a test hole about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
I have it right in front of me.
Yeah, and we hit groundwater at elevation 5.6. We had our survey crew out there along with it, so where we actually took the boring, we were able to get a grade elevation. What we are using from a design purpose, we're calling highest expected groundwater elevation 6, and we're using that with respect to what we would use that for our sanitary design, as well as our drainage design, in which we would be looking at a bottom leaching structure elevation 10 with the 4 foot separation as required by the New York State DEC design manual now.
Yes,
If you would, though, please understand, it always scares people. Elevation, people think of that as, just 6 feet below grade. You have to explain that.
I'm talking, Scott knows what I'm talking
I know.
about.
Well, I understand what you're talking about with the upper two quarters.
Elevation
like,
is up.
Right, so our property varies in elevation from elevation 24 as high.
What's 0?
0 is supposedly mean sea level.
Okay.
So we're up to about elevation 32 is at the high point.
Yep.
So where we did an updated test hole towards the southerly end of the site, it was in the neighborhood of elevation 28. We went down, we hit groundwater at elevation 5.6.
So 28 minus 5, you've got
That's
how
right,
many feet?
that's how much.
Just so people
Yeah,
understand.
I apologize. And so that's about how much depth we have. Now, as far as staying above groundwater with our leaching for sanitary, it's a minimum of 3 feet above highest expected, so the lowest we would be is somewhere around elevation 9 with the bottom of our leaching structures. So towards the front lot that borders Hill Street, that elevation is like 24. So 24 to 9, you know, you would have yourself almost, 15 feet of depth
Before you hit groundwater.
there. And typically when you build a sanitary system, you use 12-foot deep structures. 8-foot diameter, 12-foot deep, that seems to be the most economic structure to use. But again, there's no real hindrance or compromise that would need to be done with these designs because we have what we believe to be, adequate soils and depth to groundwater.
And Vincent, that's the case also in the back lot?
Yeah, actually, there's
Where-
more elevation in the back lot.
There is?
Yeah.
It's higher in, it's
Well,
higher to the south?
within the building envelope.
Oh, okay.
Where I would envision, putting the system if you were to develop it. The health department kind of wants it in the front of the house for access purposes.
Right.
But isn't that nearer to where the drainage issues were in the
Well, the
past?
drainage is more pushed towards the driveway portion of the lot.
I think the separation standard for
And-
drainage structures is like 20 feet.
Yeah.
Meet that easily.
And that lot is the bigger of all of them. I believe that lot's 1.2 acres.
But being in the front of the house, which is facing south, at this point, that's the only area that you would have to put that system.
Well, that's the ideal area, and I think that there's more than adequate space to do that.
Okay.
Again, if with respect to this board of what you would be looking for as far as a plan, I would just say that if it's something you want, if you could give us some direction as far as what it is that you would want to see, we could come up with I want to call it an exhibit.
Right, right. I mean, I'm thinking for, just something that demonstrates what we just talked about. And I don't want to speak completely, I don't want to speak for the planning board, but, what kind of area are we talking about? How big is that box that you need? And how, on the different lots, how far to the minimum ground depth to groundwater?
What size system should we be proposing?
I think the largest house you could put, you
Yeah.
would be legally allowed to put on these lots.
Okay.
And then, if it's gonna be in the front yard, how far it has to be set back, the largest possible house, the number of pools that would require
Okay.
in a typical IA system from today.
Mhm.
And then, since we have some, we do have the jurisdiction to discuss the front yards, if there are options and those things, then we would be able to more intelligently talk about those options. If you talk about the largest houses, if they're typically in the front, if you were gonna put them in the side yard or the back, what's required? Is the health department
Well,
likely to?
basically, the health department has its own dimensional regulations, so a leaching structure needs to be a minimum of 5 feet from the property line.
Right.
If it's a basement within the residence, which I assume most of these residents will have, the system needs to be 10 feet off of that. So, we could show a footprint of a house and meet those dimensional regulations of the health department, and we can size the systems. I just wanted direction, because
The system could
basically
drive
this
the
is-
placement of the house.
I'll be honest with you, this is the first, I've been doing this for 35 years, this is the first time I'm being asked of this, but in an effort to get this project over the threshold, I just wanted to get you what you want.
Let me interject. What we'll do is we'll show the maximum size house with the system that would accommodate the maximum size house. I just want everyone to realize, though, that this is going to be something that is for the comfort of the board and illustrative systems, but you can't require those because at that point, we're going to show you that they can be accomplished, but you can't require it because at that point, you're really stepping on the Suffolk County Department of Health Services jurisdiction.
And I want to be clear that, and I would like some acknowledgement at least, that you recognize that is not going to be shown on the final
On the-
plat.
Well, that's what Lois said.
That is
That's what
true.
she said.
That is
Okay,
true.
Okay,
yes.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
confirm that. Thank you.
I mean, all of these plans are not going to be filed with the county. The planting plan, any resolution by this board would acknowledge all of these plans in its decision, but that wouldn't be filed with the county, that's correct.
Yeah, but there's a significant difference with what we're gonna
Yeah.
show, it's just like an illustrative. The planting plan, we're gonna have to adhere to.
Okay,
That's
I haven't had a chance to look at the planting plan. But I will.
Just came in, just came.
I didn't think this was gonna be
Um,
closed.
Okay.
I was just wondering, Mr. Chairman, I know that Ms. Eisman, it was a fairly extensive discussion. I didn't know if Ms. Eisman had more that she then wanted to raise.
I don't think so. Scott or John? No, I wanted to have Scott here mostly because he has reviewed the plans with the drainage improvements and finds them to be consistent with, have met his comments. So there hasn't been a letter yet, but I don't know if you want a letter from the engineer stating that, you know, the comments have been addressed.
From your
From-
in-house engineer?
Yes, who is the village's engineer, but yes.
Yeah, let's have him sign off.
Well, if that's the
Okay.
Just a
case,
letter, right?
given the rather extensive review, it would make
Okay.
sense to have them sign off.
Yeah,
Sure.
so it is, it was attachment A, I believe, in our last review.
Okay.
So it can be very brief, Scott.
Okey-dokey.
I don't want to take too much time because he's very busy.
Well, Also, I
And,
think there's going to be considerable public,
right,
in the public hearing, so I just think we should have all of our,
I'll have it,
everything
yeah.
covered.
okay.
One question on that, Kathy, because the notes that I read said that the drainage had to do with where the driveway for 3 terminates. So is the driveway and that the runoff had to do with where it ended in Lot 3 or at the border of Lot 3, which is what's shown? So how is that? How is that?
Scott
determined?
can answer, I think,
Yeah,
right?
I can speak to that. So, in their most recent submission, they increased the tributary area and showed runoff coming from Lot 3, a portion of the out parcel of the existing house, where the 25-foot right-of-way easement crosses, as well as the whole easement and driveway itself. So that tributary area took into account a vast amount of larger area than any bit of a driveway extension on the plot plan would show. So I was comfortable with the amount of drainage that they were showing and the significant size of it that would capture and be able to handle any of the runoff directed towards it.
I have a question. Is the driveway ending at the lot line? Or is it going in front of the house to a courtyard or something?
Well, that has the body of the lot. The body of the lot has not been designed yet. So any proposed or driveway extension or courtyard, et cetera, you know, the house
So how do
itself, any runoff that would be associated with the development of the lot, okay, would be contained and shown on a site plan for that portion of the lot. What we've done is we've come up with a common driveway plan that if we just built the common driveway and the lot lay dormant as is, that all the runoff that would come off of that lot, including the adjacent areas, there is sufficient volume of drainage to contain that. So when we come in.
If I may, under the village code section, you have to contain all runoff on site. And the building inspectors look at that, and that's part of the next step of any sort of development. It's not something that's typically looked at, it's not something that's ever looked at by the planning board, because you don't know what the house is, so we have to have drainage structures, if the building inspector wants us to put the leaders into dry wells, we have to do that. We have to contain the water on site. Any water going off site is actually a trespass. So your village code handles that very, very ably. Did you want to show something?
Yeah, I just wanted to point something out in addition to that. On sheet C1 of the common driveway plan, we've added a note as well, and it says, "The development on the individual lots shall require containing all stormwater runoff from the impervious surfaces on site. The on-site containment shall be based on a 3-inch storm event and a runoff coefficient of 1 for all impervious areas." So we've even, besides what is in your code, kind of reiterate that on this plan as well.
Okay, thank you.
So we will get the report out on the SWIP comments.
Okay.
On what needs to be included in an updated SWIP, and that needs to be updated for the updated drainage plans. And the memo from Scott Reisinger on the comments on the sign off on the driveway plans. Is there anything else? There were draft covenants that were submitted with the original, I don't know if it was the original application or a resubmission, that need to be, I guess, reviewed at some point. But that would be something, I guess, that would be done towards the end anyway. So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I looked at those and they don't have any legal import in terms of a reciprocal easement where it's one owner. So I'm confused about how that is creating a shared driveway.
Well, because a easement shown on any map shown on, anything shown on a subdivision map is no different than an easement that's filed as a separate standalone document, but we have both. So I literally don't understand.
You don't have anything that's enforceable in
Yes,
terms of
we absolutely do have
sold to
something
different
enforceable.
owners. You have one owner agreeing with himself
No,
that
that's
he
not
will
right.
allow.
That's simply incorrect.
Reciprocal easements require
No,
a
it doesn't.
dominant and
No, it
another
doesn't.
estate.
No, it doesn't. What you're missing.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
And-
no,
and
no.
The village has to have some guarantee going forward when you sell the lot that the driveway that you're proposing, a 20-foot driveway, 25-foot driveway, is going to be honored by the two people.
Just let
who
me
buy
educate you,
the
Ms.
lot.
Bernstein. I'll just educate you a little bit something about real property law. Easements, restrictions, notes, comments shown on a filed subdivision map are binding on subsequent owners and run with the land. So it's fully enforceable.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Well, you have to
Mr.
show
Bennett,
me authority.
Mr. Bennett,
I can
Well,
easily, I can
Mr.
show you
Bennett,
a
in
lot of
terms of-
authority.
just to be clear, I appreciate your comments, but in terms of counsel, legal counsel to the board, and this isn't to be rude to you, I will
Perfect.
take that up with the board
Perfect.
as appropriate, and because it would be attorney-client, I will do that.
The other
with
just
my
thing
client.
I wanted to ask briefly, because
Would you like authority on what I just said to you?
Mr. Bennett, you can certainly share with me
Okay,
whatever
fine.
you would like. I have had the chance
I
to
just-
review.
I just had
Just
to
let me
correct a
fin- just let me
legal
finish.
misstatement. I'm
I've
sorry.
had the chance to review. I don't think it was a misstatement. I think the point was made that we want to be, the point was that they want to be sure, and Ms. Bernstein wants to be absolutely sure that if the property is sold at all, that it will run with the land and be carried. Your point is that the proposed documents that you have submitted will do that. I will be speaking with my client about that. I understand your point. I will be speaking with my client about that. It needs to be very clear that
It's
this
not-
will be enforceable into the future.
It's not only the documents, the easements that we've submitted, but a note, restriction, easement,
Understood.
anything shown on a subdivision map is binding on subsequent owners and runs the land. That I'll give you authority for.
That's fine, sir.
Okay.
But I will, but
You have belt and suspenders on.
I
John,
understand.
I needed to ask one more question because I did ask you about whether there was going to be a buffer for Lot 3, showing that you're going to abandon the access from Hill Street for the reason that it's no longer a legal flag lot. It's too small to be a flag lot, and I wanted to understand if you were choosing this new driveway over a Hill Street, because you seem to be asking for water and everything to come in from Hill Street, whereas it's no longer a legal flag lot.
Yeah, I'll take that question under advisement. I literally have no idea what you're talking about. But
Okay,
I'll try to
but, no,
respond
since
to
we're
the best as I
here,
can.
I can
Okay.
explain it, because
Sure, let's,
the ZBA preferred an internal road, so therefore granted a subdivision, asking for, say, agreeing to your alternate driveway proposal through Captain's Neck, on the theory that it was better to have a driveway emptying into an internal street. But what you seem to be wanting is 2 driveways for one lot, and you're not abandoning the other driveway.
I can address that for you. We actually have submitted with Mr. Blinkoff copies of proposed driveway agreements, and the access from Hill Street will only benefit the 2 lots. The 3rd lot will not have a legal right of access over that additional driveway off Hill Street. It'll only have access off of Captain's Neck. So I think what you're saying is that you want assurance that that back lot is not going to be a 3rd access off of Hill Street. It will not.
Yeah, that it won't, both for easements for water
is
or whatever
what we
else,
have submitted,
because
yeah.
the
Well, no,
village
for
code says
wat-
that you're supposed to have plantings or whatever to, have a buffer between adjacent lots. So if you're, it just seemed that that question wasn't being answered, that Hill Street, initially we were talking about it was gonna be okay for cars to drive from Hill Street to Captain's Neck.
It will not.
Whereas it
will not,
shouldn't.
no. And I think Mr. Blinkoff can review the documents we gave him and give you some assurance on that, that we've drafted our documents so that that back lot will not have access off of Hill Street.
Is that for utilities as well, electric and water?
No, for utilities, it may. I can't remember off the top of my head.
there is a utilities.
Yeah, there's
It
a
will.
utilities, it will, but not for access. There will be no driveway that will continue all the way to Captain's Neck. It won't be allowed.
But is that a choice to have utilities come in through Captain's Neck then? Because that was what the report said, that there was a water hookup at Captain's Neck. Because are those 2 lots on Hill Street now gonna be disturbed by, having to access the
And
3rd
I've lived
lot?
through this in my professional life, that water service and electric service crossing a property line, basically, in being serviced across 2 other properties can be problematic in time. So maybe we just needed to talk, but I'm sorry, but I was under the impression that water and electric for lot 3 were coming off of Captain's Neck.
Because it said that was a possibility, that it could be from, if there was a water hookup at Captain's Neck.
Yeah, Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
I've had a problem with this at the time of the environmental thing and everything. There is a bias in the development of internal properties in the village that have been approved for any number of purposes, for subdivision or cutting off or zoning or so forth, that flag lots be used and not easements. In the time I've been involved, which I forget now, I've tracked this as closely as I can from about 2012, maybe 11, when this first started. Easements have been rarely used or granted for any purpose for dividing internal lots in the history of land use by the planning board or the ZBA or anybody in the village. I have asked the building commissioner, at least 2 of them so far, to come up with a list of the places that easements have been used for these purposes, and I have yet to get a response. Flag lots are, for many reasons, planning reasons, and the comments that were just made by 2 of you who serve with me now, there are issues involved when easements take place, and the longevity of them, and especially the role of the village for purposes of land use in this little bit of land that we have, is a major issue for the village. I remain concerned that by having easements and not of real flag lots, a lot is afoot. Secondly, there was a lot of objection raised when the neg declaration was placed, and this went before the ZBA to do their work. That quote, the back driveway, the one up, down and up from Captain's Neck, was a real issue for the neighbors. There is land next to it that's actually lower. There's a survey, and I don't know who did the survey because it's disappeared. I've been to the files several times and cannot find the survey that was used by the planning board in doing all of its environmental review, particularly of access to the back third lot involving the use of X feet, 20, 25 feet along the back of the affiliate to the applicant's petition. It was a major issue when planning was given, approval was given by the Architectural and Review Board in approximately 2012 or 13 for the applicant to move his house as far as possible to the north side of his lot with a representation made verbally, because there is no file that has existed for that house since it disappeared, made verbally, that the back of the lot would not be used for access to the buildings, to the back, whatever it turned out to be, to access to the storage and moving lot. That issue has been in front of the house and in front of the neighbors and in front of the lawyers forever. It's great to have John on the case, who has such a long history with subdivisions. He does. I've dealt with him on some indirectly. He's represented me on potential of some. That's not the problem in the history. There is a village issue to make flag lots, which contains all of this stuff, including the chairman's idea about dispute over utilities coming in that deal with gardening. It's a big parade. So I would like, as this discussion session, to put in front of everybody the issue that the whole issue of doing easements anyway is, I think, a major policy, fundamental issue for the planning board to cope with, and we're just going to have to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Understood. So, John, it just seems like good housekeeping to have utilities for Lot 3 come off of,
They're coming off of Hill, all of them.
right, but I'm just saying,
Subject to an easement.
is it a burden to not have lot number 3 come from Hill?
Well, you want to lay your utility from a service point of view and and from
Well, what's the difference if let's say that this wasn't a subdivision and you were building a house?
Okay, there's got to be some planning reason for that, though. Typically, when you go in and
Yeah, it's called common
you lie
sense.
them in the same trench.
Right.
Yeah, and there's no, if there was some sort of downside or some sort of health or safety issue about that, I could understand it,
But it's not a flag lot anymore.
It doesn't matter.
It's not a legal
It
flag lot, so it doesn't
that
have
doesn't
any Hill
matter.
Street.
And
It does matter
it,
because
you know what?
in the
It does
future,
not
it will
matter.
be owned by 4 different
It
people
doesn't
potentially.
matter.
Well, it
doesn't
matters to
matter.
the 2 people in the front that the
No, it
back
doesn't,
lot
because
is
they
not
have
a legal flag
they-
lot, is serviced now.
Let me explain something.
not
Wait,
Let me
by-
explain something again
Mr.
about
Bennett,
the.
if you could just let
Okay.
let the person finish a statement.
Sorry.
I'd appreciate it.
Maybe you have to go back to the ZBA if you want to keep it as a flag lot that's serviced by utilities on Hill Street.
No, we're not doing that because that would be contrary to the ZBA grant. I'm not going to go back unless there's some reason for it.
I disagree. The ZBA preferred the other driveway, and therefore it was
that's not what they
obvious that
approved.
you needed to abandon it because it is too small to be a flag lot anymore. It does not qualify under the village code as a flag lot.
That's
It
why
is
they
now
gave variance relief.
undersized, and it no longer is a flag lot. So
That's why they gave variance relief.
The planning reason is because now you're having trucks and whatever, and access over an access that no longer exists because you didn't want the flag lot. You wanted the new driveway out to Captain's Neck Lane.
I think you're
So
talking
that's
all
the
over
reason.
yourself. You're saying things that
No,
are
I think you're
self-contradictory.
being an
Following
advocate, but you're
her
not
Okay, all right.
listening to the board questions, and you're being rather condescending.
No, I'm not, no, what I'm suggesting is there's absolutely no reason why, in good practice and development practice, those utilities can't come in the same trench, which they always do, number one. Number two,
Well, because
it's,
you're
what's the
going to be
downside?
running utilities across a property line in somebody's backyard.
No, it's not a property line.
It is a property line.
Yes, but it's through an easement. It's through a utility easement.
Right.
Let me talk about Alan's claim about flag lots easements, access by easements not being in the village. And what I'll do, I don't want to do it tonight, but I will go back and show you clients of mine up and down First Neck Lane, up and down South Main Street. For example, just picking it out of my own knowledge, Fox and Jifra and what's his name? He's the senator, son, something like that. And one other lot, they all come down a flag lot off of what is that? First Neck? Yeah, First Neck. And so to an entire amount of success, I will demonstrate to the board
Yeah,
that access via
It's a flag
easements.
lot or an easement?
Flag lot.
You said,
Alan,
you said,
Alan,
John, you
I'm
said
sorry.
flag.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah,
That's
they're
why I
all
asked.
easements. Thank you. Thank you.
It's done
Yeah.
by easement, not
Yes,
by flag.
by easements, not by flag. And I will show
That's
you
fi-
time and time
That's
again.
fine, that would be evidence, that'd be very helpful.
I will show you
John, that would
Very
be very
helpful.
all
helpful.
sorts of access by easements. You know, on
That's
First
fine.
Neck Lane, South Main Street. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Let me get that done for you.
Roll with it.
Can we go now?
But I would just ask, to return, so the board had raised some questions that I think they're going to want answers to. Whether or not you agree or disagree, I think it's important to respond to the questions in terms of partly what you were saying about other properties that have easements, but they're serious questions and serious concerns. So I'd ask that they be addressed seriously. The other thing is, I just don't, in terms of timing, I just wanted to get to that. So, Ms. Eisman, your report will be out next week,
Yes.
and I didn't know
But
how
the,
much.
yeah, the report that we do, SWIP reviews, actually get addressed to the building inspector.
Right.
So, but we will copy the applicant so they can, have the benefit of that.
So I'm
that
just
input.
trying to figure out how much time this should be continued for, to allow for the applicant to put together the plans that they were going to be putting together, and for the additional documentation that the board had requested.
I just need a typical septic system on a max size. Can Joe do it?
I'll get someone to work on it before I leave. I'm leaving Thursday and I won't be back till the 31st.
Okay, but in 2 weeks, can we have that today? We'll have that to you but if you just adjourn it for 2 weeks, we'll have it to you.
Well, but we'll need time to review it. I mean, we got some stuff, on Friday, and we hustled to try to get it done in time, and it's unfair to our staff to put them in that. So I ask that we don't have, that kind of pressure again.
I had an October 7th memo that was sitting in someone's file from October 7th, and I got it on Friday, and I responded to it in a day.
When's the next meeting?
So they're the first and third Mondays of every month.
So should we go the 21st? Is that?
We'll try to make the first Monday of the month.
No, I want to get it in Kathy's hands as soon as possible, okay? So Kathy, how long do you think you would need to review? I think what you're going to be looking at is Vinnie's,
So there's this revised SWIP, and then there's and then there would be the map that shows the IAA system.
so when do you think we can provide that?
Do you think the 21st gives you enough time? Kathy?
21st of,
November.
November.
well, I'd like it before then. I mean, I don't want to sit.
Well, that's the next
I
month.
would say we would finish it by the end of the month.
End of the month.
Okay,
What's the first meeting in November?
the 7th.
The
7th.
Why don't we keep it on for control purposes? If you need more time, obviously, we've always been very generous about that, Kathy, as you know.
I'll leave it to the board. Kathy, if you feel more time would be needed from the get-go, let's.
Well, I'm thinking that there
I mean,
should
we
be-
have at the end of the month, and we'll have the November 1st through the 4th to review whatever's submitted.
Yeah, and if you
So-
need more time, but
We'll start on the sanitary plan first, because I know exactly what you're looking for, and then as soon as we get the comments on the SWIP, we'll attack that next.
Okay.
okay.
Okay. I think it's too tight, but we can make that decision on the 7th.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I
okay.
greatly appreciate that.
You okay with that?
So we'll see
Is
you
the
Yeah.
board okay with that?
Great, thank you.
I actually, in terms of scheduling, may I just have one moment, Council?
Yes.
If I could respectfully request, I apologize. If I could respectfully request the 21st, because the 7th I'm supposed to be somewhere else that evening.
Well, it doesn't seem like council is necessary. Would you have
I-
to be there for that?
Are
I
you
think so,
kidding me?
yes.
He's gonna be here.
Okay.
If I could ask for the 21st, please.
That's, what is that? That's a month? What is that? It's over a month from now, right? What's the 14th? There may not be anything that you need to opine on. If the board feels uncomfortable and wants you to opine on it, you adjourn it.
Council, I'm going to be present at the meetings, so
Yep.
I would ask for
Well,
the
wait a minute, so
21st.
are you adjourning the entire planning board meeting for the 7th?
No,
No.
I'm
Maybe.
covering yours.
Somebody may be going out to vote. It's the night before the election.
Well, if you really want to exercise your franchise, you make it happen.
I would ask for
I'm
the
not concerned
21st,
about
please.
that.
Okay. Yeah, what's the issue with, what's your issue with going to the 21st?
Just
I
the
know it's been
issue-
12 years,
It's
right?
been a long time. that's why,
Understood,
yeah, yeah,
but
that's all.
new board,
And it will give us more time to completely review everything.
I think it's gonna help your situation in the long run if we're just prepared and council is here and ready to go. So let's revisit on the 21st.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Is
your
there then,
patience.
is there then a motion to continue to the 21st?
Yes.
Second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. And I will go get Miss Cooley.
There she is.
Oh, I didn't have to get Miss Cooley.
4,000 facing out there. I'll let you out before I try
Oh,
to squeeze
thank you.
in.
And Mr. Chairman, with that, I may be excused.
Yes, thank you for
Thank you.
everything.
Okay.
Good night, all.
Good
night.
night, thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, all set.
Alrighty. Number 2 on our subdivision review is Hetty Creek LLC. It's a lot line modification.
Yep.
Hello, Linda.
Hello. I'm Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road for the applicant. Do you have the digital survey to put up to show this is a lot line modification that will result in no new lots, no new building, no new structures. It is basically being done essentially because the lot, okay, it's up there. You can see on this survey that there's an area marked A between the two lots, which is triangular in shape. We have lots 1 and 2. There's an area that's marked A, which is now part of lot 1. And it is proposed to be transferred and merged into lot 2. And the reason why they want to do this is because lot 2 very much wants more waterfront to have for the view and everything else. It's right now that lot has lot 2 has about 35 feet of water frontage, and this area in between has been back and forth with license agreements over the years that have become a nuisance, if you will, to maintain and keep updating
Easement?
and, pardon me?
Is it an easement?
It's not an easement. It was a license agreement for a while, and in fact, they had a neighborly agreement that was a private agreement, not at all anything that came before the board or in any way a subdivision that allowed Lot 2 to maintain on a permissive basis, and the owner of Lot 1 agreed that they wouldn't, plant tall things in any way obstruct the view. Those license agreements became difficult, as I said, to administer and continue through the years. And so it came to pass that the property owners who now own lots 1 and 2,
It's one owner?
it's two owners,
Two owners, okay.
completely unrelated to each other.
Okay.
Okay, completely unrelated. There's no beneficial interest between the two. So they have agreed in a contract of sale, basically, regular contract, to transfer the section of triangle that's A over to Lot 2, which will result in a larger Lot 2 by 10,000 square feet, more or less. I mean, I'm speaking around numbers now.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll reduce the size of Lot 1 by the same amount. Whatever's being transferred to 2 is going to be taken out of 1.
And it's also creating some compliance issues, right?
No. The only compliance issue that it's creating, and there's only one, is that I know of, is that Lot 1, in fact, both lots are undersized for zoning. It's a R120 zoning district.
Mm-hmm.
The lots are already established. They were established a long time ago. They are
Yep.
each under 120,000 square feet.
Right. I'm gonna.
So one of them is going to become more conforming. The areas are all on the survey. They're all on the bottom of the survey. One lot is going to become more conforming. So after the area transfer, Lot 2 will become 110,062 square feet, which is darn close to 120 square feet. The other lot, which is Lot 1, is going to be reduced in size to 83,576 square feet. Because that lot is going to become more nonconforming than it was, we do have to go to Zoning Board of Appeals, and we have an application 90% drafted. I've been asked for floor plans and gross floor area calculations for the larger house, which I'm still waiting for. We don't have that yet. As soon as we do, that zoning board application will be submitted. So there are we're not the only lot line that's that's really involved is if you swing the current waterfront common boundary line over just for the width of that triangle.
Yep, it's 24,000 square feet, just for the record. It's a half an acre. More than a half an acre.
I don't know. No.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. It's half of that.
It's much less.
It's like 12,000 square feet.
Yeah, because it's
Okay,
not,
I'm
it's
sorry.
not,
I
okay.
forgot that it was a triangle.
It's a triangle. Yeah. So, and the only thing it's going to do is mean that Lot 2 has the view under their control. There are no structures in there now, and you can see where both of the houses are built. Each house is already constructed. There's no changes planned to the houses. They are, the common boundary line between the houses remains in exactly the same situation. There's no difference in terms of setbacks.
Do you have an aerial view with you?
I don't have one with me.
Do you know if both properties are honoring some sort of a wetland boundary?
A wetland boundary?
Is this lawn up to the water?
The wetland boundary is delineated on the map that I gave you.
Okay.
And it's a recent one. It was done by the village in 2022. Chick Voorhees, Nelson Pope did it. So the wetland boundary is depicted here.
You mean like the
Obviously-
edge of clearing?
Is it being honored?
Oh, is
my
it being
question.
honored? You mean, is there any clearing?
Is there a buffer zone between?
There is no buffer. There is no, let me understand your question. Sometimes there's a wetland boundary, and then there's a buffer behind it. There's no buffer.
Oh, so
This is
this
setback.
boundary is
That's the wetlands.
Phragmites, basically.
It's not, it's not necessarily just Phragmites. It's what Chick Voorhees or someone and Nelson Pope and Voorhees
Okay,
considered to
flagged
be
it.
wetland.
Okay,
And obviously, not only can the wetlands not be disturbed, and we're not planning any disturbing of the wetlands. I'm not exactly sure what's growing all over there, but we'll have to obey wetland setbacks.
I
But-
mean, yeah, so they flagged it in 2002, it looks like?
2022.
2022.
Two.
On the map, it says 2002. It's so weird.
No, it doesn't.
No, it says 2022.
22. It says
Yeah.
2022. Are you looking at the wrong map, maybe? Are you looking at an old one?
It does look like there's a fair amount of lawn that goes down towards that
There is a lot
wetland
of
boundary.
It's 2002.
Oh. This isn't. It's a different map. This is not the map.
Okay.
Do we have a right map?
There's another one.
I do.
I think
How
I.
do you
Another
see-
one. This
how
one
do you
was
see
received September
There's-
26th.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that one says Chick Voorhees, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, and the one you were looking at before didn't
Yeah.
have lot coverage on it?
Okay.
The one I submitted to the file, and I saw all of the hard copies piled up in the file today, has lot coverage, it has all of that on it.
I
It
don't know
doesn't-
where this came from. I mean, I couldn't
I
have been the
think, when I think I know where it came from, and that is, I asked Chick to do the wetlands flagging.
Yeah.
And when I did, I gave him an old survey. I gave him,
Oh, okay. I mean,
And-
this does have the transfer area on it, so it's not
I was
this
showing
old.
him
Yeah.
kind of what the idea was.
Okay.
But it's not the final map. The map
Okay.
that I submitted that you should all
I
have.
apologize. I have no idea if this just is, maybe my assistant printed this for me or something, but,
Well, I can tell you what happened.
Oh, okay.
I think that what happened is we had new maps drawn up that show lot coverage and you're seeing it up there. And it shows the wetlands line from 2022. And what happened is we had it all updated by Squires, had all the hard copies delivered to the planning board for this application. And then I think my office inadvertently sent an old map in the PDF on the email,
okay, okay.
which I discovered when you put in your memo that there was no lot area calculations on here. Because I thought, oh my God, we did have lot area
Okay,
calculations.
okay.
So if you could please rip up that other one, it really, it
I'm
was
just writing
sent,
old all over it.
yeah, it was,
Very old.
it was an email sent by my assistant in error. She should have sent the new one, she sent an old one.
Gotcha, okay.
But what's in the file is the same thing that's up here.
Okay,
And the same thing that's here now.
okay, great.
It was our office error in terms of what got emailed instead of,
Okay. No problem.
So Linda, with the
Yeah.
new transfer,
Mhm.
Lot 2 now has
Lot-
another opportunity to reach the maximum lot coverage at this point too. But there's no building that's going to be done on this lot?
there's nothing proposed according to the property owner. Let me just say this too. These are two separate property owners. We have two separate attorneys. My client is Lot 1. Lot 2 is represented by independent counsel. He happens to be up island. And so they agreed that I would be sort of making the presentations, but everything goes through them. And they have told me that they have no plans to do anything. He bought it recently. This Hetty Creek LLC purchased it recently. I want to say within the last 18 months. And but the only thing, when he purchased it, he knew he wanted to do this. But it's,
Well, the house appears to be facing in that direction, so it actually makes sense for the property.
yeah, well, it does. It does make sense. Now, it reduces the size of my client's lot, which is like Lot 1, but I can tell you that I know for a fact that my client has no plans to expand that house at all, which is really very small. It's way under the permitted gross floor area now, and will continue to be under the permitted gross floor area.
And the lot coverage, same thing. Looks like they can have 13,000 square feet or so, and they have 2,400 square feet.
Yeah.
So they have wiggle room there.
I
Yeah.
just don't see the reason for this, because if it's truly wetlands, there's no view to be had. So,
Oh, yes, there is, because of the way the
If the
terrain
land
goes down
slopes,
to the
then
creek. So if you're.
so you
if-
see over the
Sure,
vegetation? Okay.
yeah, yes, you do. And there is a good bit of lawn here, pre-existing lawn that's been there for, there is, I don't know exactly where the edge of lawn is, but there is some lawn here that's pre-existing, but you can absolutely from the house, because of the elevation of the house, see down to the creek if.
The line of the lawn is on here, but it's a little strange. I'm not sure it's correct.
Westerly
Where do you see it?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is on here. You see a dotted line.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it looks,
Inside A, you see westerly limit of lawn.
it looks
Yeah.
like it goes into the wetland area.
I think it
Linda,
does.
now that this would possibly change ownership, does the DEC get involved to make
Yeah,
sure that
we need
this is enforced in terms of the setback and the wetlands?
We need a DEC
Vegetation?
permit. We're applying for a DEC permit.
Okay.
It's DEC regulated.
Yeah.
We are doing that. I don't expect, there to be an issue in terms of, because
You don't think
there's
that they
nothing.
might ask for a
IA
75-foot buffer?
Yeah, or
They might,
IA
they
systems
might.
or anything.
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, there's,
And,
well,
and
well, that's a different thing. That's health department, and we
Yeah.
have to make a health department application.
So could
And-
that trigger,
That could trigger it, and that concerns me. I hope it doesn't, because there are two very well-functioning, but.
no, I doubt that they're very well functioning this close to a wetlands. It's, I mean, I'm sure they're functioning, but they're not.
Just let me say, we are required to and are making, Rob Herman and Consultants is making the application to both the DEC and to the Department of Health Services. So we are doing that, and which brings me to my next thing. You asked for a short form EAF, which of course lists these other agencies on it. We just submitted it today. Did you get it?
I mean, yes, it's in my packet, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't expect you to have reviewed it, but I just wanted you to note that I did submit that today. And it does require those approvals as well.
Okay.
So we're just getting started here.
Linda, do you have any information about who required this drainage easement and what the purpose of it was, other than drainage, of course?
Oh, yeah, well, this is kind of classic. This sort of brings us back to the last application in a way. I was thinking about this. There's another lot to the, to the left of Lot 1, and their access is through easements. And there is a drainage easement that was done as part, there was a very involved subdivision done decades ago,
Okay.
which I can give you more information on, that created these lots in this way. And in fact, that is an easement that goes up through Lot 2 to provide access not only to Lot 1, but also for utilities and everything else and run all the way over to that other lot to the east.
Sorry. go
Yeah,
ahead.
And does it incorporate only 2 lots or more?
3. It's 3 lots altogether. You can see how the stone
how it
driveway hooks
Oh, when
through?
it turns on to the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
There-
think we would just need to see the easement and any covenants in connection with that prior subdivision, if
Sure.
these lots were a part of it.
Sure. I have them. I can submit them.
Great.
And because that was under R20, or 120, or it was R120?
Not then. Not then. No, the subdivision goes back to when it was, I think it was R80.
R80 probably, yeah.
Yeah, it was R80.
So, but that didn't meet that requirement either, so this needed a variance at the time?
What requirement did it not meet?
Lot 1.
I'll refresh my recollection on that.
Okay, because at that point,
It may have. I'll refresh my recollection on that.
there may be something said whereby no further subdivisions or changes to this property line can happen at
Oh,
this
yeah,
point?
no, I did check that. Without the permission of the planning board.
I would think so.
Yeah, without the permission of the planning board. Which is, almost goes without saying.
Yeah.
I'll provide those to you. Now, what we're proposing to do doesn't affect, I don't think, in any way, this right-of-way, which is along the southerly end of the properties. And that's full of utilities and driveways and gates and all sorts of nonsense.
So do you,
But-
the driveway easement that goes across number 1, it looks like it intersects the lot considerably. And
It
it goes
does.
to another property.
Yeah, well, there is a common ownership there.
Hmm.
The owner of Lot 1 is a separate entity from the one, they're single and separate,
Right.
but there are some members of these LLCs that have beneficial interests in common. And in fact, so there is, it does go through there. There is an easement that goes through there too, which
Right.
is shown there.
So are you saying that the owner of Lot 1 and the owner of, well, what we're looking at is Lot 1 and the owner of Lot 43 have beneficial interests?
Yes,
Okay,
it's a separate LLC, but
Okay.
yes.
understood.
They have used the property sort of together.
Yeah.
And they intend to continue doing so, actually, but.
Any questions?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Is there, it's just, can you find out if the IA systems will be required
Oh,
before
I'll be
you
finding
submit the
out.
application, or likely to be, because
Rob
that would
Herman,
just, yeah.
Rob Herman we had to get a lot of data together for that application. And it has to be submitted by an engineer, as you know, and
Okay,
it just got all assembled and it is being submitted now.
okay.
And
But they won't give you an opinion about whether that would likely be required now or not? or-
The health department?
Yeah,
No,
No.
no.
or a planner that has worked with them on a similar
No.
kind of thing, because then we would be getting into,
I-
like,
th-
these
my-
would be above ground and they would have retaining walls
I
and
don't know
mounds
that that's
and whatever.
true, number
Yeah.
one, because there is some elevation up on the south end of the
Yeah.
property. But number two, I will tell you that I have advised my clients, or my client and the other attorney, that I think it's likely that at least improvements to the septic system, if not AI systems, are going to be required.
Do we know where the current systems are?
It's not on this map. Let me see. Let me look at the development map that was done for the Suffolk County Water Authority. I happen to have that with me, but I didn't submit it to you. Yeah, I do know exactly where they are. The sanitary system for Lot 1 is currently wedged between that square driveway that's almost like a courtyard and the house.
Okay.
And for the other lot, for Lot 2, the sanitary system, which is much more extensive, actually, is in between the tennis court and the south end of the house. And also the stone parking area. So, on,
Do you want to just put it,
yeah,
and
sure.
maybe we can take a look?
Sure.
I'm just curious for it.
I don't know if you can really see it, but I'll point to it. That's helpful. I didn't submit this.
Oh.
It's a different one.
Yeah, I don't
and-
think-
Oh, can you grab it on the camera, or is that not working?
No, it doesn't work.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
so-
sorry.
All right, I will,
Can we just look at it? Can you just,
There's just three of us. We can just
Of
look at it
course.
quickly and then I can mark
yeah,
mine
this
off
is
too.
the map that was prepared for health department purposes.
Okay.
And it shows the existing septic
I see.
system.
So this is Jimmy's here. You see that?
I sketched it in on mine.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Okay, I've got it.
yeah, that's where I had it too. This one, I had it in the same place, okay.
It doesn't show proposed because that will have a
That-
lot to
that's-
do with,
Coming down,
Doesn't the village
Mhm.
also have what's considered a high priority properties as well?
Yes,
So if there are
but-
changes to these properties,
structures,
that's all?
structures.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely does not apply to
So it may
lot line
not.
changes.
So
What?
it may not,
Pardon me?
it may not apply then.
It may not. For health department purposes, it may or may not. I'm not as sure. I went through this with, actually Chick Voorhees and also with Tin and the code, working through it. And the code, it triggers AI systems whenever there's any improvement or change or construction on the houses.
Yeah, we discussed this in connection with another subdivision we did recently that was waterfront, via Acropolis,
yes.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right on housing.
Halsey Neck.
I mean, it would be so nice if, in the perfect world, the owners would want to do it, just to do the right thing.
Well, it depends. What?
The right thing is to remove all the phragmites.
It is.
Gotta get
That's
a
a
permit
different
every year.
application. That's a different application.
Are you talking about Gin Lane?
Yes, but also Hetty Creek
Thanks.
has almost disappeared
I know.
with Phragmites. And I remember when you could see the Shinnecock Bay, and the Phragmites have taken over, and they have no pests, they just spread, and there's nothing you can do about it except poison them, which the DEC will let us do in the middle of New York State, but won't let us use the poison on the South Fork.
No, but, yeah.
There are ways, but-
Occasionally with a permit, you can do some digging.
Yes, you can pay
Digging.
$3,000 a foot, you can pay all the NPV and everybody else to be proud men to go and get permission from the South Fork. But in the rest of the state, I think along with Michigan and Maryland, there's a very good poison for literally poisoning it that is being used on some of the so-called finger lakes up in the middle of the state. That the DEC says, go ahead and use it. And I don't think there's huge middleman profit, just a smile.
Well, I'm not going to recommend that to my clients.
I just, if I could do anything with the time, something to get rid of Phragmites, I'm gonna do it. It takes forever.
Good. Okay. So you're going to look at of course,
Well, so our memo was written with the subdivision map, which wasn't the updated version, so we didn't have the coverages and so forth. We didn't have the EAF, so we'll definitely do an updated review, and,
yeah.
But it sounds like,
I thought the reason why I submitted 8 hard copies of everything was because it went to you.
yeah, and
They're
it
all still in
does
the file.
eventually get to us, and
Oh.
I guess there was because it came first, we started the review, and
Yeah,
so
okay.
unfortunately, that didn't get picked up on
Anyway,
either
and I
end.
apologize
Um,
for
all right.
sending the wrong.
It doesn't really change things too much because
Not at all.
it's
It just-
really, it was really just, we were asking for the coverages and they're
Yeah.
here, so.
We're here.
And so did you provide also the coverages and the maximum house size? You said you're gonna do that?
I have it for my client. I am waiting for the next door neighbor to supply me with the GFA from a licensed architect. Or
Okay.
it's sort of in his, he's the one who wants this, so.
Okay.
And just procedurally,
And I will submit, you asked for covenants and
Yes.
restrictions, and and ZBA determinations. I'm thinking covenants, restrictions, and easements.
Mhm.
Okay. And ZBA determinations.
do DEC and Board of Health get determined before we make our decision? Will we have that information prior to having to make our decision?
Not necessarily. For like a map like this to get filed, you need health department approval?
Okay.
I'll need health, and I think I'm gonna need health department approval, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think we would need zoning board to make a determination first, certainly.
Well, yeah, well, I figured that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nevertheless, I think we
just
should.
wanted to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and I think we should hear from you again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying let's not.
Actually, I didn't think, I actually didn't think I should have to submit gross floor area for the other house, because they're getting larger, that lot is getting larger, not smaller, and it's, you know what I
That
mean?
is true.
It's got a recent, so I couldn't see the purpose of submitting the gross floor area, which it's got
So it would make it,
Is that for zoning board?
for zoning board, I'm talking about zoning board.
Okay.
so they were asking for it too. We asked
Oh.
for it. I think we asked for it, and I could see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could see why you need it for the lot that's getting smaller.
right.
But the lot that's getting bigger, you've got a CO for that existing house. If we're not asking to add a square foot onto that house,
Yeah.
it's only getting more conforming, closer to.
They might be trying to think of what you could add.
Right,
How much
exactly.
bigger can this house get if we give you
Right.
this extra square footage?
Yes.
Well, it's still non-conforming.
But I won't speak for them. Just, it's a guess.
That might be why.
So I will get those things submitted. Do you
Great.
want to give me a sort of, do you want to give it an adjourn date, or do you just want me to come back when it's, do you want to give me a date for control purposes?
Well, it sounds like you have the information that we're asking for
Yeah, I do.
already.
I do.
So, say 2 meetings out?
You want to go for November 21st?
That seems to be the date of the evening.
Okay. So,
Okay.
That gives you, I just want to make sure Kathy has enough time.
yeah, no, that gives us enough time to, figure out what, the steps. I just don't know, do we have a public hearing on this? We have to hear back from the zoning board before this board can make a decision, so do we hold off on scheduling a public hearing
Yeah, I don't
on
think we're up
this?
to that yet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, the courses of
Okay.
the review, so.
Okay.
But yes, I think, we'll have more to talk about on the 21st.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Linda.
I'll come back with those, I'll file those items in advance.
Great, thank you.
So, we're moving right along into site plan review, but it's 51 Pond Lane, which has been adjourned to November 7th meeting.
Is that a real date?
November 7th it should be, right?
Did I say November 7th?
That's what it says on the agenda, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you said 17th, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I may have. No, okay.
I would
This has been
ask
adjourned
that,
and adjourned
I
and
would
adjourned.
ask that Alex reach out to the applicants. I've kind of recused myself from this just because we were involved with Nelson Pope was working on the site plan. But my understanding is that it is on hold for now, so I think maybe encourage them to remove it from the agenda for, until further notice, until they have something, but,
Okay.
and maybe Alex can ask.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I just
Yeah.
have a housekeeping question in the office. With Jackie gone now,
Yeah.
is Alex sliding into that position, or is Derek sliding into that position?
I think Derek is helping with,
I think it's Derek and Rovi.
I mean, my name is Tajay Anderson.
hi, Tajay.
Hi.
Hi.
So, you know, I think that, I can't speak for anyone, but we're all supportively handling the role at the moment
I see.
Okay,
with the idea that someone will fill it soon.
okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so you're in the building department now?
Yes, I am in the building department.
Okay.
Welcome.
And how do you, how do you spell your name?
Tajay, T-A-J is in Jam, E-A, Anderson, old-fashioned name.
That is a beautiful name, Tajay.
I think, like, my concern is to get them, I like having the agenda emailed to us before the meeting.
Yes.
If we can get
Yeah.
that back.
I'll make a note of it.
And I
Thank you.
think Alex has been, I don't know if he's away, but he.
He's away. He's back
yeah, so
tomorrow.
that- he was getting stuff out,
Okay,
but yeah, that would be great.
okay.
There, I also need those minutes approved.
Yes, I know, we're moving right on to that.
Okay.
So we have quite a few minutes that can get approved.
We do? Where are they? Oh, there they are.
August first,
I don't have a list.
August, I can't read my handwriting, 15th, I think it is, 9/6, and 9/19. Just check on that August date.
They're not on here.
Yeah, only September 19th.
They were
Um,
never approved, though.
Okay.
And I know that there's been some back and forth with everyone and Alan, and that these minutes have been vetted, correct?
I took everybody's changes, Willa, I got yours, I got Alan's, I have Kathy's, I have Alice's, and there was no other comments, but they
Okay.
were all done. And it was August 1st, August 15th, September 6th, and September 19th.
I'll move their approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So that's it for tonight, unless there's anything we want to discuss as a board? I just want to remind the board that, don't forget that your ultimate power, I shouldn't say power, but your ultimate,
Assignment.
well, you have your vote. Like, and I sometimes lose sight of that when we're, like, I'm looking for justice or whatever, but a lot can be said through your vote, so keep that in mind when things are coming at you. Okay, I'd like to move that we close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Aye.